everyone. Welcome back to a continuation of our video series on Jewish backgrounds, actually related to not only Jewish leaders or terminologies, but how would that contextually apply to our understanding to what was meant by the name Muhammad, which is read Muhammad sometimes, at least from an Islamic context, and shed some light on the fact that there is other possibilities that apply here. And if we take the Quran back to the 7th century, it may make more sense beginning to understand certain things that today may appear to be ambiguous. But if we try to decipher it that way, it will become a lot clearer than we would anticipate. We were going through a number of those Jewish titles with Brother Mel, who's joining me right here remotely. Mel, we went through at least 4 different titles, and we put them in context to understand what they may have meant, or at least from a Jewish standpoint. Today we're going to look at another title, Jalut, I believe, and I'll turn it over to you to take it from here.
Okay, so on my slide, I have Jalut or Galut. Now, it depends where you go in the Middle East. You can actually pronounce the letter either as a J or a G. For example, if you go to Egypt, they still pronounce it Galut. And that's right. Actually important because I would suggest that when the Quran was written, it was actually originally pronounced Galut, and things change over time. But this is found in Surah 2, 251. If you look at the slide, you can see that the word Jalut is there given above it. But when it's translated, the translators give us a completely different word entirely. Goliath.
Goliath, yeah, exactly.
Now, I can understand why they've gone for Goliath, because it talks about David killing Jalut. But they're missing the point of the original text, and they're imposing a meaning onto it that doesn't exist. And I don't think that's a very honest translation of what's there in the Arabic. But I'm going to suggest that Galut has got a different context of meaning. It's actually a very important Jewish leader. So Galut, or the Reysh Galuta, is the Jewish Exilarch. And we can see it in various different languages. So, for example, we have in Hebrew, Rosh HaGolah, in Aramaic, Reysh Galuta, in Arabic, and I'm sorry if I murdered the language here, but Ras Al-Galut, and then Quranic Arabic Jalut, and as I said earlier, it's pronounced as Galut still in Egyptian Arabic. For those who don't know who the Jewish Exilarch is, he is the Jewish leader of the diaspora, all of the Jews all over, wherever they are across the Middle East. They didn't all just stay in Israel. Some of them were in Iraq, some of them were in Syria. And for centuries, the Exilarch lived in Baghdad, and the Jews would turn to him for leadership for their religion. So he's actually a very important figure. So why is it that the Quran is referring to someone who's a Jewish leader way up in Iraq when supposedly the Arabian prophet is way down in Mecca in the Hijaz? It seems odd. The proximity doesn't seem to be there. Now, we also can point to Al-Tabari, who refers to Ras al-Jalut as the Exilarch or head of the captivity as well, just to confirm that awareness was there even in the early centuries. They didn't not know that Jalut or Galut is referring to the Exilarch.
So how does that apply then to this alleged story of David killing, in this case, let's say, a leader?
One possible suggestion is that David is a coded term for someone in contemporary times. We have, for example, the broad. Well, better not give too much away, but there was an Exilarch that was killed in 617 AD, Nehemiah ben Huziel. He was killed when he was a governor of Jerusalem. So potentially it could be a coded reference to the killer of an exilarch in the early part of the 7th century. So that could be the context. Sometimes it seems to me when the Quran is talking about contemporary issues, rather than being on the nose, it tends to mix it up a little bit and code it so it's not too direct. So I would suggest that maybe David is referring to the killer of the exilarch, and then it makes sense. Not sure exactly why David. There might be some biblical sort of meaning behind that. Not sure.
Right.
But okay.
What's the next term we're going to look at?
So the next term is Illiyoun and Sidjin, which are mentioned in Surah 83. And the suggestion for its understanding comes from a paper by A.J. Juice. So what he says is that, well, let's not give it away. Maybe I'll just give you a quotation from his paper first. So the quotation from 83:7 of the Quran says, "Yes, the register of the wicked is in Sidjin, and who shall make thee understand what Sidjin is? It is a book distinctly written." Then a few verses later, in the same surah, it talks about, "But the register of the righteous is in Illiyoun, and who shall make thee understand what Illiyoun is? A book distinctly written." So it's talking about two books, two places. One is kind of connected with the good guys, and one is connected with the bad guys. And it is referring to a register. So A.J. Juice talks about the register being a recording, something that judges would do. They would record cases, and he suggests it's got something to do with that. So each academy, Jewish academy, had a judge who would trial a case and then make a judgment on that. So it could be that type of register. But he goes on to say that Sidjin also appears to contain the root of the word jinn, in simple terms understood to be the malicious spirits of the Muslims. This is the standard Islamic narrative. For example, Surah 7:183 says, "Will they not bethank them that their companion Muhammad is not jinn possessed? Yes, his office is only that of a plain warner." So what A.J. Juice says about this is, from an academic perspective, taking the text simply for what it says, a book was opposed by the authors of the Quran that was written in a place dubbed Sidjin. The counterpart refers to a place by the name of Illiyoun, where another book was written. The latter was supported by the authors of this surah. So those who wrote the surah is basically cheerleading for the Illiyoun, and is basically casting aspersions against the book associated with Sidjin. So A.J. Juice says that Illiyoun comes from Aelia, the Arabic form of Aelia, so Jerusalem. And to cut to the chase, he basically says the Quran surah is straightforward. The Illiyoun is the Tana Debi Eliyahu, the Jerusalem Talmud, from the Sadducees in Tiberias. It is perhaps directly linked to the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem by Nehemiah bin Huziel from 614 to 617 AD. So the idea then, therefore, is the Illiyoun refers to the Jerusalem Talmud, and the Sidjin refers to the Babylonian Talmud. Now, this fits in with all of what we mentioned in the earlier episode about why is the Quran attacking these Jewish leaders that are situated over in Iraq. It makes sense now because those leaders are associated with the Babylonian Talmud. They're the people who are adding their oral traditions, their Mishnah, onto the Torah, whereas those Jews who want to stick more closely to the Torah prefer the Jerusalem Talmud for that reason.
Right.
Okay. So, kind of as a summary, those associated with the Illiyoun, they're saying that the register of the wicked is in Babylon, and those in Sidjin would probably say, no, au contraire, the register of the wicked is in Jerusalem. It's a reflection of that conflict between different Jewish sects in the 7th century. That's basically what I would say on that one.
Wonderful. Next time, we are going to talk about what exactly?
We are looking at, I've forgotten. Can you edit this bit out?
No problem.
Yeah. So what we're looking at in the next episode, I'll say it again. So what we're looking at in the next episode is evidence for a Jewish belief in the Messiah coming in the 7th century. So this is going to be significant because it gives us another context in the backdrop to the writing of the Quran. So we're going to see direct evidence that Jewish people believed that the Messiah had arrived, and because Mahmed is a messianic title, this is hugely significant for explaining who Mahmed was.
So there is an anticipation of a Messiah coming, and that's where we see maybe some connection between a Jewish background here to who Mahmed might have been.
Yeah,
Excellent.
That's the idea.
Well, thank you so much as always. And everyone, please make sure you interact with us. You send us comments, suggestions. And Mel, again, what is your YouTube channel so people can subscribe to it and also interact with you?
It's called simply Islamic Origins.
Islamic Origins. Again, I called it Origins, but my apology. I think it's Islamic Origins. And you have a lot of topics similar to this in there, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's growing the whole time. So hopefully over the next few years, we'll get the full picture of how Islam began. So that's
wonderful.
That's the aim of the channel.
Looking forward to this collaboration. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. This is Al-Fadi over and out. God bless. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And ring the bell so you will be notified when we release new content. Our mission is to reach Muslims with the gospel of Jesus Christ and help Christians engage with their Muslim neighbors. If you want to join us in this life-changing work, please support us on patreon.com/CIRA International, or just click on the link below.